All right, so tonight's first article I wanted to go over tonight with our climate news section. Renewable energy is a blackout risk, warns National Grid after chaos during biggest outage in decade. This, I believe, is over in the UK, if I'm not mistaken. Let's go ahead and read this real quick. National Grid had evidence that the shift renewable energy was putting Britain's electricity supply at risk for months before the biggest blackout in a decade. The Mail on Sunday can reveal, basically, the company which was responsible for keeping the lights out has downplayed the role of wind energy in the power cut that caused widespread chaos earlier this month. Now, John Pettigrew, the CEO of FTSE 100 firm, described the outage as a once-in-a-30-year event and said there was nothing to indicate that there is anything to do with the fact that we are moving to more wind or more solar. Again, downplaying this, Mr. Pettigrew. Yet in April, National Grid published research warning that using more renewable power sources posed a threat to the network's stability. In a report based on 6.8 million euros research project, National Grid admitted that renewables increase the unpredictability and volatility of the power supply, which could lead up to faults on the electrical network. The revelations come as energy regulator Ofgem and the government continue to investigate the causes of the blackout. A report due out this week is expected to show the outage was caused by a series of failures, including lightning strikes, which led to the almost simultaneous shutdown of 2 power stations, a gas-fired power station at Little Bafford's Bedfordshire, and Hornsea offshore wind farm in the North Sea went offline just before 5 p.m. on August 9th. That caused the electricity network's frequency, the rate at which power is transmitted to users, to drop below 50 hertz. Equipment can be damaged if it is higher or lower than this level. To maintain frequency, local distribution networks were forced to cut supply in some areas. So, meaning that there was obviously an issue with the grid. It was not producing the electricity that was needed. So this was a mandatory blackout, basically, was what they're admitting. They cut the power because, as we just read to you, anything over or above 50 hertz can damage electrical equipment. And instead of being on the hook for millions of people's electrical equipment, they were forced to do a blackout. Now, guys, I tried to force articles on my broadcast when we do live shows about the disasters of solar and wind. And it has nothing to do with scaring people away from renewable energy. But when we hear these horror stories about blackouts and higher electricity bills not being reliable, and then you hear all the new research, and let's man, I just saw this commercial the other day too about Pennzoil motor oil, and it's talking about cleaner emissions from cars, and that Pennzoil is a particular formula that's blended for its new engine oil now is made from natural gas, and it basically showed the CO2 bubbles disappear from the word CO2, as if to say that because of the natural gas, that this is the cleanest motor oil that you can put in your car. Now, a lot of you can say, well, that's coming from an oil company. They're going to tell you anything. But not just from an oil company have I heard that natural gas is the cleanest form of energy out there. It's been politicians, it's been other wealthy people that have a strong interest in natural gas, along with scientists. But we are seeing more and more technology that shows natural gas is cleaner. And I'll give you another quick example. This year, some numbers came out from 2017. The United States emissions, CO2 emissions, went down 2.7%. Now, during that time of emissions going down, there were more natural gas plants in motion than there were coal plants. So what does that tell you? I mean, significantly much more natural gas is flowing than coal, especially here in the Northeast. So what's that tell you? That there is a renewable energy out there, and it's cleaner than anything that we got right now. And here's where we can meet in the middle with people who believe that fossil fuels are creating climate change or other problems. I think many of you know, and most of you will agree, that fossil fuels do contribute to pollution for the breathing air, possibly even the drinking water. So let's move into the middle here and do a compromise, because I don't see a better solution than natural gas, period. Natural gas is the answer. Way less CO2 emissions. In fact, if any at all. It almost seems to eliminate CO2 emissions when your power is run based on natural gas. Mari sent me a picture, or I'm sorry, I sent Mari a picture of an electrical charging station that shows behind the charging station is a mobile diesel generator that this station has to come equipped with, because the solar panels that it absorbs the solar power from to help run the charging station is not enough to give these vehicles a full charge when they pull into these charging stations. So these diesel generated charger stations kick in when the solar power is not doing it. And we all know that solar and wind is very unreliable. And this is another example right here that solar and wind, just even trying to transition some solar and wind into the grid, is causing problems. Huge stability problems. You know, the guy over there at National Grid, you can say what you want. Everything's okay. You know, that this has nothing to do with that we are moving more wind and more solar. It wasn't happening like this before. How many blackouts have we talked about here recently? The Bronx had one not too long ago. And I remember a couple years ago where we had a blackout in New York City, Manhattan. We've encountered frequent blackouts that are unexplained. Now, some, like what you're experiencing in Texas, where it gets so damn hot, and those are explainable. When you're dealing with heat waves like that, everyone's running their AC. Of course, you're going to have blackouts. But this National Grid did this research and a study, and it's showing that the solar and wind is indeed affecting the stability of our electricity and our power right now. So let's try to talk to people with some sense about natural gas. Let's do more research about natural gas. I'm tired of reading these failure solar and wind stories. And I'm also tired of hearing about how clean natural gas is and how there is no CO2. But yet, for some reason, those folks over there that want the Green New Deal want to ban natural gas. They also want to ban nuclear, which they're confusing it with the bomb versus what the power plant has to offer. Totally different. If done right, you have clean energy. Yes, I'm not saying there's not a problem with certain nuclear facilities that have issues with their waste. That has to be the number one priority. So it does have higher risk when you're talking about its manufacturing waste. But I'd have to say it has to go in that pile of energy that would be acceptable, that gave out less CO2 emissions. So you got natural gas, nuclear, and then, of course, hydroelectricity. To me, those three things are going to be a lot cleaner and a lot more stable than just solar and wind. So there you go, folks. I'll do you one solid there, Green New Deal policy lovers. I'll say to this. I'll say let's put coal on the back shelf for emergency use only, if we only have to. And let's go to natural gas all the way. Since we're proving it doesn't have any CO2 emissions, let's do it. It's safer, it's cleaner, more reliable, more efficient. Why not? Right? All right, let's move along here. Said enough about that.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform, buy a t-shirt, or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.